based on stereotypes that are totally untrue, that I do not agree with, you would maybe not be a very good driver.
Oh man, am I a woman?
So, what's it like to fly fighters in Asia as a civilian? So, my last tour in the active duty Navy, I was an instructor pilot, VFA 125, flying Legacy Hornets. It's a great experience. We flew them till late October of 2010, and closed up the squadron. So we merged into one big happy family with the Super Hornet squadron, which was VFA 122. So that's where I got to fly the A through the F model all at the same time, which was a very unique experience. So 122, I got some experience flying with Wizzos, which was good, and just continued with teaching air to air and air to ground, F-18 employment, just taking guys from the T-45 to basically ready for the fleet as brand new wingman. Also got to do a little air show work. Did the 2011 air show in St. Louis. This is me and Dave Falk. He's in his Corsair. St. Louis is where they build the Hornet. So it was only natural that we based the airplane right there in St. Louis at Boeing, which was kind of nice because here on this pass, this is the high-speed pass show center where I overtake the Corsair, which you'll see in a second. I actually had this is like the last day, I had a vent failure, so the exhaust nozzle failed right about here, and I got the master warning, and I had to come back to St. Louis and land. So, parked the airplane there for about 2 weeks, and tried to fix it. It took a while, eventually got it done, got to meet a lot of good people at Boeing and how they build the F-18. The assembly is incredible. They build them right next to the F-15. So, it was a very unique experience, unplanned experience, but I started to gain a real appreciation for Boeing and what they do. So about a year later, my buddy tipped me off to a position at Boeing for an F-18 instructor pilot. The Kuwaitis fly him, and I know they had always had a contract pilot over there to help them out with training. So I threw my application in. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so I wasn't living in the desert wasn't exactly a foreign concept to me. So I put my app in and just kind of waited and didn't hear anything for quite a while. And then one day I got a phone call from Boeing, and they asked if I would be interested in going to Malaysia and being a Malaysian F-18 instructor pilot. So the first thing I did was I knew Malaysia was in Asia, but I didn't exactly know where. So I did a quick search and saw that, no kidding, it is halfway around the world, 12 time zones away, essentially, just south of Thailand, near Vietnam, kind of, which is, my mom is from Vietnam, so I was very interested in heading over there. They had bought 8 F-18s in the late 90s, and they had always had a civilian IP. They had the Hawk. The Malaysians also had the F-5, which they were actually phasing out during my time there. The MiG-29, which also they were starting to phase out as well, the Smoky Bandits. And then the Su-30 MKM was probably their newest airplane. Now, being a fighter guy, I knew that I would probably, if I flew over there, get to do some DACT with these different airframes. So immediately I was very interested. Did the interview, didn't hear anything for a while, and finally got the call. And so my wife and I, we packed our bags and we hopped on a plane for Malaysia. Probably one of the more stressful things that my wife and I had to deal with is just making sure we get our dog over to Malaysia with us. He was real important. He still is a real important part of our family. And it only took a puppy passport and about $2,000 in paperwork to get him over there safely. Once we got there, we stayed at the only hotel that we could find in Penang, Malaysia that would accept pets, the Muntry Muse. Ended up being a really nice place, and then we began the process of just setting up our new home. we ended up living in a place called Straits Key. It's a development they built on the northeast side of the island of Penang. Lived on the 4th floor in a condo. It was really nice. My wife really enjoyed it. There was shopping, restaurants, everything nearby. I knew, happy wife, happy life, because I was going to be spending all my time, at work, and she had to be happy, and she was. So that was very important. Boeing took care of us there. And then as far as transportation goes, they got us a Honda Accord, which is real nice. My wife drove. It was brand new, and we didn't have to worry about anything. They got the insurance on it and the whole 9 yards. For me, I bought a truck mainly to carry my dirt bike in because I like riding motorcycles. And then to get to and from work, I bought a scooter. First a little Honda 100, then a Yamaha 135. So the commute to work took about 45 minutes. So I'd ride my scooter. It was actually a ferry ride and a scooter ride. The traffic could be pretty dangerous. I used to joke that probably my commute to and from work was the most dangerous part of my day. So you really had to be on your skills on the old scooter. And I only got hit by a car one time, but luckily I did survive. As far as, once I got to work, they paired me up with G-Ruff. He's probably their top guy at the time. Had about 3,000 hours in the Hornet. And G-Ruff basically checked me out as an instructor with per the Royal Malaysian standards. First time I ever saw him fly, he was coming into the field into the overhead. And the Malaysians do what's called low-level running into the runway and pitch, but I called it the Malaysian shit hot. And I asked, what are the restrictions on this overhead pattern? They said subsonic and 100 feet. So when I first saw him coming over the trees, he was going so fast it didn't even look real. It just looked like so much fun. I just couldn't wait till I could do it. And I eventually, this is a shot of me and a guy named Kunte doing the Malaysian shit hot. The other thing they really encouraged over there, which they don't in the States, at least in the Navy, is we call it the low transition in the Navy, or I think over there is called the pachet. So the Air Force does it as an unrestricted takeoff, but we used to do the high performance climb or the low tranny all the time. So the Malaysians operated the Hornet out of Armagh, Butterworth, which it's a decent sized base. They got the F5 base there and the Hawk base there as well. 8,000 foot runway. The way they used to run the Hornet program was like G-Ruff. He started as a Wizzo because they had the D model Hornet 2-seat. He started as a Wizzo and then they would progress to the front seat. They got rid of that some time ago and they had dedicated Wizzos and then dedicated pilots. So when I first got there, I took a look at the syllabus, how they do training, and because that's how I needed to do the training to their standard. There's a bunch of ways you can fly a Hornet, but I wanted to make sure I was teaching them, the Malaysian way with a little bit of American flavor. But they had basically the syllabus that the Marines and the Navy had given them, and they had done some modifications since they had acquired, a couple upgrades to the F-18 since then. But as far as their training goes, it was pretty much standard U.S. style, FAMs, forms, owies, strike, and fighter. Obviously no carrier, but the thing that struck me was, it's not like America where they've got so many airplanes and simulators there. They had one simulator, and, to be honest, that thing was pretty worked. It needed a lot of the displays, the visual displays didn't work, but the Malaysians were real good at being resourceful and making it work. So, we were able to execute the syllabus without any kind of real compromise. And when those guys were done with training, they would just move over to the operational side. Everything was done at the same location. They just had one squadron space that they used for both the training side and the operational side. The other thing that struck me about the Malaysian fighter pilot in general is it kind of reminded me of maybe what a U.S. fighter pilot was like in the 60s and 70s. A lot of the guys smoked cigarettes. They were always looking to have a good time, and it was just really fun to hang out with them. You could fully embrace the fighter pilot culture with these guys, and it was a really good time. It just added to the overall experience. As far as operational ability of the Hornet goes, the RMAF used the airplane to its fullest capacity. And when I got there, for example, they would do harm profile, they would do IRMAV, they would do low-level night NVG, they would do, things that we didn't really do a lot in the F-18. Anti-ship missile, the Harpoon profile as well. And when you think about it, in the U.S., there's so many different platforms and weapons that just because the F-18 could do it, it probably wasn't always the best platform given the weapons that we have available in the States. So the Malaysians used it to its fullest capability, and they trained to that capability. So I actually did learn some stuff when I was over there about the airplane and about what it would do, because, like I said, we simply didn't do it in the States. The op tempo over there was pretty laid back, which reflected the culture in general. So it took me a little bit to get used to that. Western culture is very much hurry up, get it done as fast and efficiently and as well as you can. And at least in Asia, it was definitely different. The first boss of the squadron there, the first skipper, told me, "Hey, you're gonna have to throttle back here, and in order to be able to serve these guys and show them the respect that they deserve, I had to adjust to their culture, and I did." And I was a lot less stressed about a lot of things and ended up enjoying myself at work and when I wasn't at work. The other unique thing about flying in Asia was the airspace was generally military controlled. There's not a lot of general aviation traffic, and there's not as much civilian traffic. So we were able to do things even with prior ATC coordination that you could never do or get away with in the U.S. So that made the flying a lot of fun too. We basically had free range over most of the country as long as we stayed away from the really heavily populated areas. As far as the Malaysian Hornet goes, they were some of the last legacies built. So they have the EP engines, which are high output. They're lightweight. They handle really well. Honestly, probably the best Hornet, just for performance wise, I've flown. I really enjoyed it. They have the little beep, the little tone that's transmitted when you make a radio call at a tower right before you land if your gear's down, which U.S. Hornets don't have that. Probably the biggest thing I had to get used to when I first hopped in it was they had changed the radios out. So my understanding is they standardized the radios throughout the RMAF, and so they put the I can't remember what it's called, but they put a different radio in the airplane. It came with the ARC-210. They swapped it out for something else, and it worked pretty well once you got used to using it. It took me a while, but with training Wizzos and sitting in the back and being the IP, I wasn't talking on the radio a whole lot, which is probably a good thing, since there was a little bit of a language barrier at times, but pretty much everybody there spoke English, and definitely all your air crew and ATC, they all spoke English as well. But when things got a little bit dicey, sometimes my Malaysian counterparts would hop on the radio and speak the native tongue, and then all of a sudden everything was fine. So, but I really didn't think the language was much of an issue. I tried to learn a little Bahasa, and I knew some phrases, but that's about it. They spoke pretty good English, a lot better than I spoke Bahasa. Outside of flying, I joined the local motocross club. We traveled all over Malaysia and Thailand racing. I got to really, learn the culture and the people. We traveled to Australia, got to see all the sites. Well, not all of them, but a lot of the sights and sounds in Australia. Even got to go to Vietnam, which I'd never been to, which, my mom's from Vietnam. So we got to see that part of Asia, which I'd always wanted to see. Overall, just an amazing experience for me and my wife. The flying was incredible. Just the local people were phenomenal. The sights that we got to see while we were there, it was truly an honor to be able to serve those guys in the RMAF and try to teach them at least the best that I could F-18 employment. I still keep in touch with a lot of those guys, and they will be friends of mine forever as far as I'm concerned. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. Brought back a lot of memories. See you next time.